Got my coffee and today's guest here with me, so we're ready to roll. I'm Michael Hanf, Executive Partner at Taival Advisory. Welcome to our Circular Coffee Break podcast, where we'll be casually talking about everything circular and beyond. We hope the podcast is interesting, insightful, and provides new perspectives for all of you. And as always, if you would like to provide us feedback, you have improvement ideas or suggestions, please leave a comment on your favorite podcasting platform or drop us a note at info@taival.com. Now, my guest today is an impact entrepreneur who believes that circularity plays a key role in securing a more sustainable tomorrow. She started off her career in marketing and sourcing in organizations such as Ensto, UPM, Club 21, Royal Majestics, and the Santa Claus Finland brand. For the listeners not familiar, Santa Claus is actually from Finland, as he lives at Korvatunturi, or at least so they say, and I think there's some arguments about that. At the same time, she gathered her first entrepreneurial experience as a founding member of a fashion retail pop-up store called Wild Honey. Since 2019, she is the founder of Kamupak, a startup offering a digital deposit and borrow system for reusable takeaway packaging. And if that wouldn't be enough, she's a board member in different companies, including Ensto, Ensto Invest, Kamupak, and Inasis. She holds a Master of Economics from the University of Vasa in Marketing and Management. I'm really excited to talk about all of this and much more in today's episode. Thank you for joining me on the show today, Iida Miettinen.
Yeah, really happy to be here today with you, Michael, to talk about circularity.
Thanks for joining. And, you know, the first thing I must ask you is about a role you had some years back, but it surely caught my eye. How did you do marketing for Santa Claus? And does Santa Claus actually needs any marketing? I would assume all kids know him without any TV spots or Google ads or anything around that. So how did you do that? How did you end up doing marketing for Santa Claus?
Yeah, it's a good question. And why Santa Claus Finland and why marketing is that? Well, I would say that Santa Claus and Christmas is probably one of the best and magical lies of childhood. And what we did at Santa Claus Finland is firstly, we wanted to make sure that the look and feel of the Santa Claus was as authentic as possible. And as you mentioned, it's coming from Finland. And so we represented the brand and how license that for companies. And then, but what's really in the back of the Santa Claus Finland is that there was a foundation. And there is still a foundation. And a big part of the revenue goes actually to charity for the well-being of children. So basically, the market, in a nutshell, the marketing itself was mostly partner marketing and partner communications.
Cool. Yeah, and I think Santa Claus is a big thing up north here in Finland. And when the kids were younger, I learned that you can actually send a letter to Santa and you get a response. So I think it's really great to work with that and build around that. But moving away, let's switch to something more closely related to sustainability and circularity. Not saying that Santa wouldn't be circular or sustainable, but let's maybe move to something else you did. 4 years ago, you founded Kamupak. And Kamupak is a pioneer in the area of deposit-based reusable food packaging, similar to the systems we know from cans and bottles in the beverage space that have been around for a long period and in many countries are actually mandatory already for some time. What motivated you to establish Kamupak, and why did you want to focus on solving the waste problem in the takeaway food space?
Thank you for the question. So going back in time, sustainability and the future of our environment has always been somewhat my priority in life and also my concern, and that has led me into my interest towards circular economy, but it also has given me hope towards the future. And what really led me into especially Kamupak is that well, I honestly got really frustrated and worried about the global waste crisis, as I still am, and how it's mostly due to single-use packaging, and how I saw the effects on the environment. But then I also felt like, why couldn't we just establish the tools for consumers and companies, such as we have done with the bottle system in Finland? But why not just make it digital so that we can actually make it scalable globally? And then I just wanted to really explore further the idea of why not build a digital deposit system for reusable takeaway packaging. And since takeaway is really, it's a sector where we could easily replace single-use packaging with reusables. And prior to founding Kamupak, I also had a pretty severe injury in life, and I was on a sick leave for over a year, and I really had time to reflect my values and what I wanted to do with my life. So, and this felt like a good motivation at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we know each other for some time, and I've been following the journey of Kamupak, and I think you have been doing major strides in that area. And I agree with you. I think there is a lot to do in the takeaway single use packaging of food. I was at a sports event the other day, and just seeing how much of the single use packaging or the takeaway packaging is just thrown away, piles and piles. So if we can replace that, that will have a significant impact. And if we can scale that on a global level, as you said, with a digital platform, that basically multiplies the impact. And just for the listeners who are not familiar with Kamupak and haven't seen your reusable packaging in any of the restaurants or supermarkets that they visit frequently, could you briefly explain what Kamupak does? What is the offering you have, and how does it work?
Yes, I can definitely do that. So what Kamupak has is a digital deposit system for reusable takeaway packaging. And what we really want to do is we want to make reusability as easy and as convenient as possible for consumers and companies. And how we do that is we use digitality in order to make reusability scalable, meaning that we have the physical takeaway packaging, but we also have the data and the platform so that we can track all of these reusable packagings, meaning that we know which restaurant they have left, and we know when a consumer has returned it to a certain restaurant. And we can also allow for the end user to return the packaging to any of our partner networks, regardless of where it's picked up from. So that's in a nutshell how Kamupak works. And nowadays we have multiple different packages for different foods. And now we also have released reusable pizza boxes that have been piloted with Koti Pizza recently.
Perfect. Thanks, Ida. Now, a lot has changed in the past 4 years, and you could argue that circularity, sustainability has become more of a, you might not want to call it mainstream, but it's definitely more in the news. It's definitely more discussed, more widely discussed in that context. Um, what has this change meant for you, specifically based on what you just outlined regarding your motivation, as well as for Kamupak as a young company still?
Yeah, well, yeah, myself, I'm definitely really happy that it has changed a lot during the past years. Uh, Basically, what has changed is also the consumer acceptance, uh, and how the media has been really active in communicating the problems, but also the solutions. But what's even better is that the countries and especially EU has taken an active role with taking the green shift with the help of Green Deal further, and that's also affecting heavily the packaging market. This means that in different areas, materials will be more sustainable, and there will be efforts into recycling, and that's obviously also really really a positive signal for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, as you said, there's a lot happening at the moment on the regulatory side, but also on the consumer side. And these things go hand in hand. We've seen a lot of countries do a lot in this regard when it comes to regulation and all of these topics. How important do you feel regulation is, specifically in the area that Kamupak is operating in?
Yeah. It's a really good question. It's been something that I've been really thinking about within the past years. And also, what I've learned on the way from Kamupak is that most people and even organizations support the idea of sustainable consuming and sustainable solutions, but it's really a different road to actually change the way you're consuming or change your habits. And as I've learned from my experience, is that regardless of the change, we do need pretty brave tools in order to change behavior. And that is why I'm really happy that there is now regulations coming in different countries, which is leading the road towards reusable packaging and also financial instruments towards this. And I believe this is really needed in order to make the change.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think mindset change is one of the most difficult things. And this one to solve this whole situation around climate change, biodiversity loss, all of these topics needs a significant mindset shift. So it takes all the different stakeholders to actually work together in that context. So what you're saying is absolutely spot on.
Yeah, I agree. And also in our industry, with reusable packaging, we also, because we need to build the market so that it's actually going to be profitable and interesting for companies. And
Mm-hmm.
in order for that to happen, it's not going to happen with the help of one company innovating or some forerunner consumers, but actually for the market to emerge, it needs like something close to regulation or some tools such as that, because obviously that's the way business also works.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, to be honest, the deposit system for cans and bottles wouldn't be in place and wouldn't be so successful without the regulatory framework that basically has been pushing it in the first place. So it's for me a little bit an interesting perspective to now say, oh yeah, everything will solve by the open market. Is if the past has shown that is not necessarily reality with a lot of the things we're seeing today. Now, recently you have been announcing several exciting partnerships with Kamupak, like with Kespro on the distribution side, with Cotti Pizza Group and Bolt. Additionally, I've noticed you are accelerating your expansion to other countries, other markets like Sweden. What are the future plans you have for Kamupak? What is the big goal that you're aiming for, that you dream of when Kamupak grows up and is a big successful company that's global and addresses the reusable packaging world?
Well, basically we have two drivers. Firstly, it's that we really want to create impact, and how we create impact is that we lower the amount of single-use packaging and the amount of single-use waste. But then again, how we achieve that goal is that we make reusability the norm of everyday life. And this means that I'm really hopeful that we will eventually make reusable takeaway packaging the norm of consuming takeaway, meaning in restaurants where we are already currently really active here in Finland. But we're also extending our platform to grocery stores and event venues and all sorts of takeaway where takeaway packaging is needed.
Cool. Interesting. And now I have to ask this because the listeners might be wondering. I mean, we talked about partnerships you have and all of that availability of your solution. How can our listeners help in accelerating the use of the Kamupak system as a sustainable alternative for one-way packaging in the food industry? Where can they test out your solution, or how can they help expand the solution?
Yeah, good question. And as you mentioned, we have already a fairly wide network where Kamupak is available, and so it's available via home delivery. For example, via our partner Volt, you can order takeaway in a reusable Kamupak box, but you can also pick up your food in any of our partner restaurants. But in addition to that, you can also ask for your closest favorite restaurant that they should move into reusables and have Kamupak available. But then, in addition, if you're running your own business and you can affect the restaurants, what they're using, or any takeaway venues, you should definitely just contact us, and we would be really happy to tell you more on how the system works. And what is the true benefit of working with us is that the shift might feel like a big thing to do for a company, but with us, we basically just plug it in and we organize everything, and we also have a customer care and everything, and all the packaging and and the digitality included, so you can just hassle-free move into reusables from single use. So that's basically how it works.
Perfect. Thanks, Ida. And I mean, you know, what I like is what you said. I mean, go to your favorite restaurant and basically just ask them about reusable packaging, because I think very often restaurant owners or franchisees or whatever, they don't really think about this necessarily. And once you show them that customers really care and are really asking these questions, then they might actually start thinking about it and get going in that context. So I've been trying that a couple of times, and there is interest in a lot of restaurants to just hear about different options that they have.
Yeah, that's a good point, because it's really like it's a big movement on making the world and even Finland a little bit less single use uh, packaging here. So we sort of need to be a collective, and for us, and what we really want to do with Kamupak is that we want to help Finland achieving this goal. And then you're helping, and companies are helping us. If you tell people and you ask companies that should they move into reusables, and what are actually the environmental impacts of using reusables, and the more we know and the more we ask, the better it is.
Yeah, I fully agree. And I had a discussion on one of the earlier episodes of this podcast, and someone said, you know, we're all consumers who are demanding change, but we're also business people who work in roles in our companies, so we can also impact change in that context. So I fully agree with you. It's we have to take that action. We have to push these solutions. We have to ask the sometimes uncomfortable questions to bring this forward. I fully agree.
Exactly. I agree. And then I also feel like one single consumer, regardless if you can make bigger decisions or not, but you're making impact even if you just uh, if you use a reusable coffee cup or reusable packaging and you show that to people, and because we all have a voice, but if we just remember that we have the voice, and we can show it to the rest of the people how we do things, and that always affects.
Yeah, fully agree. Good. You're also in the board of Ensto, as I mentioned earlier, an international growth-oriented family business and technology company that creates smart solutions for electricity distribution networks. How do you see sustainability and circularity from that perspective? Because we know family business, small and medium-sized enterprises will also be impacted by this, by the regulation, by the changes in the market that are happening. So how do you see the change in the industry, but also from a family business perspective? What are some of the challenges, but also opportunities you see in this area?
Yeah, so at Ensto, sustainability is really in the core of what in everything what we do, and which I'm really happy about. Our mission is to make better life with electricity, and what that really means is that now globally, as you know, is happening a energy transition, and it's going to the way of a green energy transition, when it has to go really into that way in order for things to go
Yes.
as they should. But what Ensta does is that we create long life cycle products and solutions that enable reliable electricity. So it's really in our core, but even though it's in our core, it's also like circularity and sustainability is always something that we want to take more and more into consideration in all of our product development and manufacturing. But yeah, so basically it's a big driver for us, and we always measure things, and we do have targets in our production and product development and all of our different functions when it comes to sustainability.
Yeah, and I mean, what you're saying is naturally very important. It's something that goes across the organization. It's not one specific unit that takes care of sustainability and circularity, and then the rest of the organization can live happily ever after. And that very often is the challenge, that it is something very complex that impacts everyone. So it needs to be ingrained in the core, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I'm really happy that it is at Ensta. So, but I'm also happy that I'm seeing more and more companies actually making sustainability one of the core factors in their strategy, because it has been, as you mentioned, also like one small unit or one person in a big corporation trying to drive sustainability or circular economy or whatsoever, but really the change doesn't happen unless it's in the core, and unless everyone is pulling to that direction, because I think that's a really good shift that is happening. And also more and more consumers are demanding to see what actually sustainability means in a company, which means that we need to be fairly open. We can't just market and communicate that we're a sustainable company, but we need to show people what it actually means, which is also a good thing, and it's putting pressure on companies, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have the feeling that sustainability and circularity earlier were more add-ons or nice to haves, and they're shifting more and more into the core of the business, as you pointed out at Ensto, but also in many other companies. Is actually becoming part of the core strategy, of the core values of the organization, and that's really encouraging to see, and most likely will have a significant impact on where we're going as a society, but also where businesses are going in that context.
Yes, I agree. But I'm also hopeful for the future in especially in Finland, but also in all other countries, that all the industrial companies would move more and more actually towards circular economy, which should be done in the very near future, so that we can actually utilize circularity as a part of society, and as a part of life, because it really in the industrial companies play such a big role in that, so we can't really forget that.
Fully agree, and it feels the time is right for that. But I mean, and I think that that unites us with many other people, maybe many of the listeners we have, is like it never goes fast enough. So it always should accelerate and go faster in that context. Perfect. Thanks a lot, Iida. The coffee is empty, and it's time to wrap up this episode of the Circular Coffee Break. So thanks a lot, Iida, for joining me today and sharing a little bit of your insights and your experience.
Thank you so much, Michael. It's been a really pleasure having me on board in this.
Perfect. Thanks. I hope you all listening out there liked the episode today and you got some new inspiration and ideas. As mentioned in the discussion earlier, head over to the Kamupak webpage and basically make sure your local restaurant or your local pub or your local supermarket starts adopting reusable packaging. It's an easy thing. As they say, it's a small step for a consumer, but it's a major step for mankind. So go out there and discuss. If you have any comments, ideas, suggestions, as mentioned at the top of the show, let us know by leaving a comment in your favorite podcasting platform or dropping us a note at info@taival.com. And please remember to subscribe so you stay in the loop on new episodes that will be dropping every 2 weeks. And we have a long list of very interesting guests coming up. So really hope that you will be continue to listen and join us. Thanks for listening today. And I'm looking forward to seeing you here all at the Circular Coffee.